Welcome to my show. Welcome to my channel. We're going to be talking a little bit about black magic, a little bit about the end times, some new age spiritual shit. We can get right to the point of some stuff here. There's this spirituality has been hijacked since before you were born. So when it comes to the consciousness of things, and everybody looking to be a light worker and a star seed and lift themselves up into a higher consciousness. There's a lot of talk. There's a lot of spiritual stuff that people don't understand. The mind, the universal mind, is not able to comprehend. Your mind is not able to comprehend the spiritual truth because you haven't been initiated into it. This is the fall. You're in a world of spiritual manipulation, black magic, mind control, MK Ultra, all this stuff that people have heard about, and then you get into this stuff that has gone back into ancient history, where, the burning of the feminine, and all this stuff of killing the firstborn and sacrificing and spilling blood and drinking blood and whatever people want to talk about when it comes to the satanic stuff and this stuff that has been going on since before you were born, that has been turned into a fairy tale through creating heavy metal music and everything that has come out of this reality, in a form of entertainment. While people aren't able to look into this reality and ignore, really ignore this reality for what it is, because that's the part of false light. When you're talking about false light and spirituality, it's that's the part where the people, trying to ascend, trying to get into a higher realms, are ignoring what is taking place in this realm. And you have the majority, there's been this piggybacking on spirituality ever since 2012, in a way of the darkness was already prepared for enlightenment, the lifting up, and it's always been a spiritual war, but coming into inverted symbols and reversing black magic, that's what has been taking place, because that's what needs to take place before lifting up the divine feminine. And people don't understand this, and that's the part of your nightmares and being spiritually it's spiritual bondage of not understanding what is within your mind, and how everybody is attached to the situations of ancient history, and how everybody is attached to Mother Earth and the trauma that she has taken in the Divine Mother and everything of ancient history. A lot of people ignore, this reality is trauma based. And that's the part where a lot of people ignore the stuff where, you have everything with the Epstein Islands, and you have all this underground stuff, darkness, that people can't look at. It's soul shattering, and that's big part of why it still happens. People, there's many forms of darkness. There's many, hiding behind the religion, and everyone knows about the religion and stuff like that, but it's not even just the church anymore, and that's part of everything. And so, it's this new age stuff, and it's a lot of really, they're getting into the satanic, the SRA, satanic ritual abuse that has been going on for millennia. Just in this timeline in Hollywood and everything, and it's a part of where people have they hear of the stuff, but talking about it is something different, and continuing to talk about it, because um, it is what it is, but that's, a lot of people, um, asking for the curtain to be pulled back, but they won't go look behind the curtain. That's why, you have the situation as a whole today where, um, the darkness comes in many forms. If you're looking at what the invasion, or if you're looking at weather manipulation, um, there's comes in many forms. But a lot of stuff that's going on today, within the Northwest and everything, is like a broken branch of the tree, because of what has come out of, these timelines of, manipulating the people through darkness. And everyone sees what, today, Seattle and Portland and everything like that, it's an extension from the heavy metal, which people really didn't know back in the 80s. Some people did, some people didn't. But, it's them controlling the music to control the people, and looking at the darkness that has come down, manipulating the music. But, you get into weather manipulation and stuff. But the reversal of symbolism, and that's the part of literally soul traveling into the darkness and reversing black magic, and that's soul experience. It takes a lot of soul experience, and it takes a lot of understanding of even what a soul is, because people are stuck in their bodies, can't comprehend what black magic is, what white magic is, what a circle is, what this frickin' pentagram is. People see stuff, they see symbols, they see the sun cross, they see medicine wheels, but everyone's stuck in the Reiki, and they don't have the power to understand the truth of, fighting demons. Reiki, and that's all the part of where in 2012 people learned a new language of ascension, being a light worker, being a starseed, learning Reiki, playing with crystals, singing bowls, stuff like this. But it's only material stuff, if one, is not, on a soul level, soul experience, to, fight off the demons in ways of removing them, from planetary alignments. And that's the part of flipping symbols back up, right? And that's the part, people lost their symbols. I say that people lost their symbols because they don't understand what realm they're in, and, looking at an upside down pentagram and all of this satanic stuff, and, what you're seeing today, is a killing of the old guard, all of the old, Luciferian satanic ones who, go back in ancient history, like, bloodlines who attempted, who built this country and hijacked America, to these younger generations of, because it's like the whole thing with Kirk, with Charlie Kirk, was a Luciferian Mormon hijack of, Luciferian Mormon hijack to say that they're Christians, to say that they're for the people, to say that they're for the younger generation, but in reality it's just a hijack. It has no roots to the tree of life, and that's the part where you're looking at all the symbolism that no one's able to tap into. And that goes along with, all the Nordic stuff, the Hyperborealists, the Pleiadians, the Ouroboros, circle, the pentagram, sun cross, medicine wheel, four colors, the frequencies of, what creates, the rainbow prophecy. Because you have people, piggybacking on stuff like the Merkaba rainbow prophecy, chakra system. A lot of people saying that they're going galactic, but in true reality, they're just, uh, what regurgitating what people have told them. Going through the initiation of returning back into the tree of life, returning back into heaven on earth with great spirit, is something more than just, speaking about it. People must fall. They must come into the frequencies of being sucked down into hell, because that's the part of where you will understand what this reality is about. Because everything has been hidden. You lost your symbols. They got into the temple. They sacrificed the feminine. They sacrificed the children and the men over many timelines to destroy creation. But now we have the symbolism that has come back into the north with the northern star on top of the tree, the pine tree, the owl in the tree, because we've gone in the Bohemian Grove and we've wiped out what was embedded in certain locations within Mother Earth. We're pretty much going around everywhere, and people say pressure points. Pressure points on Mother Earth, pressure points on Turtle Island, and a lot of people talk about Colorado, Denver, and Utah, and in all these locations, Mount Shasta with Pleiadians, because that's where we are within the as above, so below of coming through the green lion, the green and gold lion of the Northwest within the Emerald Ray heart chakra that no one's able to understand because it's a porthole and you're not allowed in. So this is the part where it takes an initiation to understand where the road traveled really is on the land of where the ancestors were traveling to get back into heaven after the fall. But a lot of people talk on stuff, but they don't know because they can't get in. Where's the entrance point into the Ouroboros on the land? Where's the Quetzalcoatl, the serpent dragon, the center point within and without? Then the mystical stuff that has been taken away from you because you're born out of a sacrifice. You're born out of being drowned in water. You're born out of being burnt on a stake. Born, the flood of Atlantis, flood of Lemuria, space wars and sacrificing and, energies of hell, and have been chased around all these generations and coming back into here and now where, people truly don't understand. But that's the part of regaining the power of your symbols. Your circle, and that's understanding what direction your circle spins, the natural spin of Mother Earth, but that's, it's feminine power. It is what is coming through within the Divine Mother and the dragons and mother dragons, the Pleiadians returning, and everything within the divine code of the DNA and realigned chakra system, because it's all within the spirit that nobody can see, because it's an initiation of coming back through, remembering your shield of protection. Because if you don't have your circle, you don't have your symbols, and your circle being your immediate circle of protection. But understanding on how to get into it on a soul level is something different, because it's a hertz, it's a frequency, and that's the part of a lot of people say about their temple, their own temple, human body. But what's the DNA codes to the human body? You know, so they're getting into a lot of the satanic stuff. It's been embedded within society for a really long time, and that's people are starting to wake up and not just see it, but they're able to feel it because it is being the curtain's being pulled back. And like I said about the green lion, that's the symbolism of the Green Curtain and the Wizard of Oz and the Yellow Brick Road, and the lion biting his own tail with frequencies of Mithras and the underworld, which is really, you know, animals. And so when you're talking about symbols, people talk on animals and zodiac animals and, spiritual animals, but everything has been a hijack. That's the part where people don't understand what the difference is between New Age and the original spirituality of creation. The original spirituality of creation was hijacked. If you're looking into the Hermetic codes, if you're looking into everything that took place in the Mayan times, if you're looking at Asia and stuff, and the little bit that was left, really was India, but it's a lot of different timelines. And so if you're left here with no knowledge and wisdom of being able to follow spirit on the inner journey, because that's the part where it's just Reiki. People see these symbols, but they don't understand because they don't have the magic to work them. And that's where all these symbols are within oneself. If your chakra system and your DNA patterns and everything that people are talking about, but it's invisible. So there is a reversal. This is part of the reversal, reversing the symbols, reversing the pentagram, taking the symbol back and lifting up the feminine, because this belongs to the goddesses in the north, the goddesses, the river nymphs, the fairies and everything. This is the shield, and everything is behind the ice wall, because the ice wall is a transformative frequency of ice and water, where these ones with the fire are not allowed in. That's the part when people are looking at this Hyperborealis and they think of Pleiadians and so forth and the dragon, and that's where that is your circle. That's the 1 + 7, which is 17, which is 8, which is the first day of creation, which is the 8 infinity. There's only one dragon, and what people think of within, how do we put it, the one that fell out of heaven, there's a dragon family, and one of them decided to go their own way, and this is the frequencies of what what it is, and people being confused when they say about the dragon, dragon of the end times and dragon of revelations. People don't know, if it's good or bad, because they don't know anything, especially in America, because everyone's piggybacking on spiritual stuff, because if you go look into Asia, they still have dragons, they still worship the dragon and stuff, but they've taken it away from the people in America, and they just it's a Naga thing, it's a Nagi thing, and the Nagas, being a Hindu, being a serpent Hindustan, there's going back into time, that's the whole thing of manipulating the DNA. And you had Native Americans and Hindus, Native American and Hindu, who both, the whole thing with the swastika and it being a power symbol, same thing with Sun Cross, medicine wheels, and, the mark goes over different timelines, but this is your star. No one has any more power over you. This is your star of protection, and there's nothing. This is your shield. you know so the inverted inversion of the pentagram, and it is of no more, and that's, you're getting into all the symbols. You're getting into the rainbow, and people look at their chakra system, and it's all that they know. They just learn about the chakra system, and they just learn about meditation. They just learned about this stuff. And it's like, when did you learn about the violet flame? When did you learn about Reiki? When did you learn about ascension? When did you learn these words? When did you learn? It's all new, but it's been around here, been around forever. So the initiation of attempting to get back into heaven on earth is in your mind, but it's an inner journey back into your DNA. But it's an understanding that you really don't know much. So you got to start back off at 0 point within your symbols, within 0 point within your belly, to bring forth the new rainbow dragon. Because there's darkness all within, and we're just overcoming what was embedded. So people are on this galactic thing, but don't understand how much has been embedded within the Divine Mother and the Pleiadians and Mother Earth. That's what it is throughout all of these timelines throughout ancient history. So when you talk about there's pieces of you in past timelines. Yeah, because you were sacrificed in past timeline. If you're an experienced soul, we're here once before, but there's a lot of first timers, a lot of people who have been here for first incarnation, and that's the part where I remember all of my incarnations. And you get into the Akashic records and being able to read energies of past timelines, and that's, people can say that they come from past timelines, but have you been through the energies of it? Because that's the difference. People can say a lot of stuff, but what is the frequency that you are holding? The initiation is truly coming into the horse and the dragon, because that's when the horse and the dragon merge together. That is the unicorn. That's the higher initiation past your emerald ray and all this stuff that people have been talking about with Thoth and Hermes and the emerald stuff and blah blah blah. And that's another part of hijacking spirituality. They take all of the real teachings and feed you one book, the Emerald Tablet of Thoth, and there's so many more books on stuff, and Thoth is not Hermes, not Mercury. It's a different entity that they have fed to you, because it doesn't have the key codes. And so the key codes being the transformation into the violet flame and the emerald ray, of the transformation of the sun, Mercury, and the water in the belly, turning into the emerald ray heart chakra. But the moving from one realm to another, everyone looks at pictures of their chakra system. But then you have this pink high heart, rose crux of Mary. People heard of it, but they can't access it, because that's going into a different realm. you can't come through into this frequency, because pink is not a color. Pink is, pink is not a color, it's a frequency. Okay? And when you're getting into the frequencies, red and blue make purple, violet in the transmutation of freeing the ancestors, the blood and the water, the fire and the water. But then when you get into the blue and red under a different frequency, under the Kachinas, then you're looking at the pink high heart flame of pink Kachina, pink baby. See? And that's when you're getting into the rose gold crux. You can't access it, because this is where the battle line is. It's at the heart center. Triple temple, you know, the triple heart center, you know, it's whatever, you know, there's many different timelines that people talk on. You know, I got a friend who does the Mayan calendar, who has been initiated back into the Rosicrucian, Mayan, King Arthur, dragon, you know, all this stuff, because it is an initiation, just like the olden days. But there's no one out there that's going to tell you. You know, there's a lot of mediums, a lot of psychic people, but there's a lot of talk. Because anyone can say that they're a medium, anyone can say they're a shaman or a druid or a light worker or a starseed. But to come through the realms that you're, you know, that are here, the fallen realms, is something different. Because you know, a lot of feminine, you know, that I knew, a lot of feminine, you know, that were into heavy metal music, a lot of, you know, this timeline of where these men were, you know, just say not righteous, you know, these ones that came out of the 80s and 90s, and you know, you get into this heavy metal stuff and there's just nothing is kosher within the perfect balance of the masculine and feminine. And I see a lot of trauma. I see a lot of mental, sexual, verbal trauma that has come into the feminine, that have, you know, grew up out of these 80s and 90s of rock music, heavy metal music, not a kosher path. And in true reality, I can see the energies of these ladies who once were part of this tree of life, where, you know, they are the river nymphs. They are ones who belong in the tree of life, but have been so spiritually damaged because they've been chased around the universe, just like Mother Earth, and just like with all the situations of ancient history, you know. But it's hard for people to grasp, because in this timeline, you know, if you are spiritual, you know, people look at the Merkaba, which is a Jewish Kabbalah symbol, and then people look at the Rainbow Prophecy, which is a Native American thing, and then people look at the chakra system, which is a Hindu thing, and people look at Buddha and their malas and their singing bowls, and you know, it's like people just gather whatever they can to become more spiritual, which isn't a bad thing, but it still comes into the mind of understanding of where you stand, and are you within the lotus, are you within the center point of the circle, because if you're in the center point, you'll know, because the center point of the circle is Jacob's ladder. And when your consciousness is outside of you, your higher self, and you know, everyone talks about the higher selves, but do you really understand what the higher self is? You know, because you have to bring forth the knowing and the wisdom of what once was in ancient history to understand what today is. That's wisdom. And the magic and the black magic and where you come from, and your ancestors, and there's so much lineage and confusion where you get into the Jewish thing, and you get into all of this stuff, and no one has a clue. No one has a clue. That's why people turn away. They don't want to be religious, but they don't want to be marked as a Bible thumper. So a lot of people, they want to know, but then they don't want to know. They don't want to go down the rabbit hole because their mind can't handle thinking. Their mind can't handle learning about stuff. And because you look at all of the events today where there's all of these events, but I see a lot of people ignoring them. It is observing and not going deep into the rabbit holes because you don't want to get your energy attached to the events, because they are pulling on people's heartstrings through real events or fake events. But it's knowing what is real and what isn't, when you're getting into a lot of this stuff. So it's a movie, and that's where people have been saying that it's a movie, but what's real and what isn't. The movies are fake, but back in the day, in the satanic crap hole, they would promote movies, underground movies, slasher films that they said were fake, but in true reality, killing people on camera and then presenting it to the people as fake. So there's a lot of behind the scenes stuff that people don't understand and can't comprehend. So, and then we're getting into the AI stuff, and I've soul traveled that, then it's a lot of people don't want to hear this shit. And that's the part where, what is the truth? Everyone wants their shit sugar coated. They want to just live their little life, in this reality, and ignoring the shit that's going on around them. And that's the problem, and that's why we are in this situation today, where no one stood up for the children, no one stood up for the feminine, and all of this timeline they've manipulated the feminine. But they're getting into a lot of shit going on in the Northwest, and that's a lot of darkness. The shifting, it's that, just see what it is. See, it's just darkness all over the place. So the initiation, the coming back through symbolism, because this symbol here runs over many timelines. It runs in every culture, just like the sun cross. But within this timeline, people see it as an inverted pentagram, and those feminine look at it as being a North Star, and then the star that goes on top of the pyramid of the pine tree, and the symbolism of the pine tree, because we destroyed this Bohemian Grove shit spiritually, and we're coming for them. We're coming for all the demons, and that's the part where humanity can't see that these are the end days, especially when everything is being ignored, and people are seeing the situation out there on how everything is changing if they're looking, but people can't understand it, and that's the part where it's going to shatter their soul. Because look how far we have come into the situation ever since 2012. All these wars and climbing the ascension ladder and going through all of these things where truth is coming to the surface for people to look at. But it's up to the people to pull the curtain back themselves to see. And if they don't, then the curtain's going to be pulled back on them, and they will fall to their knees and cry out to God for it to stop, because what has happened in history is repeating. And if you go look into the UK and you look into Europe and everything that is happening over there, and what's happening in America that no one can see, because it's spiritual, and it's happening on a collective level within individual locations. Like New York, Dearborn, Portland, Seattle, LA, Baltimore. It all depends. All depends on where you're at and what you're looking at, because there's a lot of people. And a city can burn and no one would even know about it. That's the thing. So you want to talk about satanic stuff and the stuff today and the movement that they've hijacked. Of course they have to bring forth a new Christian movement, because their Mormon movement is dead. Everything is dead. Satanic church is dead. Coming for you. And they know it. Have a good day.